Hello, friends, and now for something special just for the twitch.tv/nicetl YouTube channel. Muse's new album, Simulation Theory, was officially released, I want to say, within the last few hours. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new songs. All right, when Drones came out, their last album, there was a podcast online that I used to do, a movie podcast with my friends, and we recorded ourselves listening to Drones for the first time. And for the most part, I really, really loved it. But there were like 3 or 4 songs where I was like, yeah, I like it, but I don't love it. And as time went on, I ended up really, really loving. And I think Drones, as an entire album, I think Drones might be my favorite full album. All right, let's just get into it, folks. The first song, Algorithm. Say right off the bat that little piano, very extremely classical styling of piano. I'm
100% Muse.
Yeah, I've been working on a script for a video, kind of a sequel to my Nine Inch Nails video, but for one about Muse, kind of just about the emotion that Muse puts forward. Point being that the piano that just happened right there, that is an example of something that only Muse would do, and I think that's a perfect example of what Muse's style is.
And it's the amazing theatricality that is like that. That's what I was thinking about, though. When you think about like bands like Queen and bands like Muse, that there is a certain very obvious and intentional theatricality. It's not theatricality for attention necessarily. It's theatricality because they're having fun doing that.
Yeah.
They know it's good. Oh yeah, I saw this. You showed me this. I
don't know if this is actually real, but like I think the people in the subreddit were saying this actually is a real tweet. I assumed this was like a joke, but anyway, it drives home the point of what you were just saying, that it's all about them having fun. And I think the best bands in the world, and those best bands in the world being the ones who have music that remains good throughout their entire career.
It was very unapologetic.
Yes, are the bands. I think it's really, really difficult for a lot of bands, and I would totally understand why, especially like being on Twitch, where you're very much so always trying to appeal to your audience. But Muse has never ever done that. They've always been very respectful of their audience and always loved their audience and being very engaging with their audience. Obviously their live shows are very much like for the audience, that's for us. But in terms of writing their music, they have never once given a single fuck about what their audience says. And I think that is why they've remained relevant, because that's you need to have fun,
and they're able to have fun and grow. They don't keep themselves locked in any sort of box that they're supposed to stay in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, continued thoughts. I just want to say, so it's only 2.5 minutes, and this song has already had like 3 or 4 unique sections.
Yeah.
It had the long intro, the piano that then very smoothly transitioned into the symphony.
Just for a nice little second.
And then the vocals came in, and it all stayed in the same key, and then there was a key change. So we've already had like 4 distinct sections of this song in 2.5 minutes, which is another thing that's very much their style, is weaving in and out of sections that sound very different.
And is like what some of the best bands in the world have done. Like think of like Good Vibrations or like Beatles.
Yes. I completely agree. That chorus, "This means war."
Oh, that's amazing.
So, awesome thing to look forward to. They're going to open the show with this song, and we're going to be able to sing along to this like ridiculously epic chorus, which of course Muse is known for, of having these ridiculous levels of grandeur where it's so absurd that it's stupid, but because they're such magnificent players, you can believe it. They're so insanely good at making music that even though the content is so absurd and so far beyond like reality,
and fantastical, and
but they're gonna have a huge stage. There's gonna be lights going off everywhere. Matt's gonna be like walking out to the middle of the crowd. This means, and the whole crowd's gonna be like, "What?" Oh man, it's gonna be great. So obviously here we're getting into a bit of the narrative of the story. This is one of the tracks that was already previous released. One of the I think it was like the 3rd song they released.
Yeah, I think so.
And in my opinion, by far the best of the songs they've already released. It definitely, the full fan base seems to be in love with this song. The whole fan base seems to.
We loved it the second we heard it.
Yeah.
We were like,
I mean that
okay.
fucking that drum, the way the drum intro just smacks into that riff, boom, 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 yeah, so strong, such an amazing. Because Algorithm now, you can see, is more of a prologue.
Yeah.
And then Dark Side is chapter 1, where like Dark Side is like, okay, now you're actually into like the meat of the album.
Well, and it's like wake me up, break me out, set me free. It's the beginning of this,
right?
Of this big war.
They're all so extremely aware of when restraint is better. Because they can all play the fuck out of their instruments. They all could make some, like, blistering metal album if they wanted to, but they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And the point being, this solo it's such a gorgeous guitar solo.
It is, but
I'm sure, I'm probably going to say the same things, but it's the exact same pattern every time. He just plays it in a different scale. And what I love about it is there's a pause between each scale.
Let it settle.
So it's like it's such a beautiful show of restraint.
But you have to be so also when you do something that's so short like that. Mm-hmm. You have to be a lot more specific about like what notes you're gonna pick and what scale you're gonna pick that's gonna be the most effective and sound the best and get the right kind of tone.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you want there.
Yeah.
So you respect that even more. That you have to be more choosy about what you're doing, but also knowing. Again, like I respect knowing restraint too, and like you don't have to. We don't need to take it that far all the time for it to be what we want it to be.
We have this line right here, "Save me from the dark side," is such a perfect look into how Matt Bellamy can choose his emotions and implement them in such different ways for a line. Because these chorus, the whole song, the chorus is very forward and very empowering and very, break me out, break me out, break me out, break me out. And then this one, so these are all
the
like
one that's like about save me.
Yeah, so these ones, which are all about empowerment and trying to regain confidence, are very forward and standard. And then on this one line where the content is kind of sad and scary.
He's wailing.
Yeah, he's wailing, exactly. He's going into his falsetto and he's wailing, and it sounds like a cry.
Ooh, babe, that's cool. I never thought of that.
That's what I love about Matt Bellamy as a vocalist as opposed to a lyricist, because even though his lyrics are pretty simple, the way he implements music on top of his lyrics is fucking brilliant. Pressure. It's going to be a banger live. It's going to be so good. Far and away, my favorite bassist has always been Chris Wolstenholme. And perfect example is here in Pressure of how he absolutely refuses to create simple bass lines. And it's always intentional. And like here in the background, that's kind of what I was, because I've listened to this song so many times now, but I was really trying to listen to the bass this time. And during that chorus of the "Don't push me," he's going like boom boo doo 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 doo, like he's just like going through the whole octave, and he's like running the bass. He's just constantly like walking all the way through the song, like all the way up and down the octaves, but still managing to find a place where you don't really notice him, which in terms of like a bassist is kind of unfortunately their job. But Chris Wolstenholme is always, and I think it's probably a lot of Matt pushing him more to the front. I can imagine in the studio, Matt is the one who's like, no, we need you more in the front. I think
like you can do more.
Yeah, and he's always, I mean, he fucking wrote Hysteria. It's like one of the most ridiculous bass lines of all time. You guys fucking hearing this? Like, okay, this is officially my favorite part of the song. This bass line is so good. Yeah. Yeah, you can see here's octaves on the 3 to 5. Those are octaves. Ba 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 ba. Yeah, his hands are just like doing like this very steady jog through the entire line. It's so creative. His bass lines are just so creative and thoughtful. Okay, so we have
Hard left.
potentially a new vote for the most ridiculous thing Muse has ever done in a song. It's like that propaganda thing is like a perfect example of like you. It's just stupid, but they go so fucking hard on it that you just kind of have to laugh. And if the follow up to that intro wasn't so surprising and smooth and great,
yeah.
I probably would have been like, no, I don't like this song. But because now it's like, well, now they kind of complement each other because it's like it's this so far. This is like a perfect example of how Muse is. Not only are they not scared of doing new things, they prefer to do new things.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's all within a rock basis, but this album especially is super poppy. Yeah, this is like a super more electronic poppy type of rock,
but still heavy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The weird duality of that where it's like blowing out my speakers.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as you guys couldn't hear, I said, "Oh, now it's a Lorde song."
Like literally Lorde and like
a
little Backstreet Boy harmony.
Yeah. It's so poppy, but holy shit.
But
damn, they still know how to write a song. Doesn't matter what genre it is. Okay, so as I was saying, you guys couldn't hear so it started very, very, very much so reminiscent of like an industrial Nine Inch Nails song, which Nine Inch Nails, as anyone who's familiar with them know, Trent Reznor adores dissonance and embraces it, and to a point where a lot of his stuff, to certain people, a lot of Nine Inch Nails music is just unlistenable. Like if you're not into that type of stuff, they'll be like, "What the fuck is this? It sounds like noise." So you have that, and then this, I guess, verse section sounds like Taylor Swift. Like just the mix of it sounds like a really like one of her like dirtier pop songs. That's what I thought.
Yeah, like her like dark era.
Mm-hmm. Just when you think it's about to get as far away from Muse as possible, they pull it back in, and this part sounds like a definitive Muse section so far. I mean, I've only listened
long phrased and
long phrases, lots of synths in the background, lots of like waves of sound that kind of just flow forward. Yeah, very interesting.
Had a very specific, like weird, early 2000s nostalgic vibe when he was doing the. That's what I was like. A very weird, specific.
It's like a
sound.
It's an East. I don't know what country of origin it is, but it's like
a Middle Eastern,
like Egyptian kind of or classically Egyptian kind of scaling. Yeah, I am a big fan of the industrial dissonant part.
I like and the heavy bass and heavy
super
rhythm.
thick bass is really nice. The rest of it, I'm grateful for it, and I appreciate on the fact that it's so clear that this is a prime example of Muse doing whatever the fuck they want and not giving a shit what the fans think. And that's why they're so good, so I appreciate that. I guess my first listen is it's not a song that I love. It could be one of those songs that with time I'm just like, it'll surprise me and it'll very slowly creep up and I'll just end up loving it. But yeah, I appreciate it for its originality. It's just very bizarre, but it
doesn't have a lot of re-listen value to me yet, but I might
agree.
Still over time.
Yeah, obviously, in like the very vague narrative of this album, something human could be interpreted. Like if you just listen to the song by yourself, you're like, oh, it's like a romantic song. Like something human is like romantic.
Yeah,
but
that's what you think.
In the context of the album, I mean, I'm sure it is both of those things. I'm sure it is supposed to be like a romantic song. But in the context of album, it's obviously literally, as is the style of Muse, very blatantly literal of an AI trying to be human. And but again, what's really cool that I just noticed for the first time because we have the context of the album now, which makes me appreciate this song more. Is now for the first time in the entire album, which has been purely electronic and synths up until now, the first time when he says something human, and the last time he goes human, it becomes acoustic.
Oh.
It's the first time in the album
I know what you're talking about.
where the synth completely falls away and it becomes live acoustic guitar. And I'd say it's pretty clearly for me my least favorite, in addition to Break It To Me just as a whole. However, I do think Thought Contagion has one of those songs where once I see it live, my opinion of it could totally shift.
Yeah, well, I think it would still be fun. I would still really enjoy that.
Yeah, again, all of these songs, I mean, I'm biased since they're like my favorite artist, but all of these songs, even when I say I don't like it, I still like the song way more than the vast majority of music I hear from other artists. So yeah, no, it's still a great song. I love the screaming guitar solo that's like, I don't know, it sounds like he plugged his guitar into a synth. It's just so super high pitched and like shrieking. Fits the song very well. And obviously the music video is kind of like in the same like vibe of like the Thriller music video.
Yeah.
And obviously, but like with a Back to the Future kind of span as with this whole album. Okay, yeah, I mean, not much to say, but because we've had so much time to sit with Thought Contagion. Yeah, it's a great song.
We've listened to it a lot. Still.
Yeah, not one of my personal favorite Muse songs, but yeah, it's a good track.
Not even like a little more pop.
What did you just say about it?
Sure. It's like reminded us of our old emo band days.
Oh yeah.
Pop punk, but like more on the poppy side, like boys like girls, like on the more.
Yeah.
Like a little more, not quite like Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, not like
a little edgier.
More, yeah, and I would say Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco for their era were very creative and very inventive of what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not that side of that genre.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very, and I'm really not a fan of the female vocals, probably just because I'm not used to it in a Muse song, but it doesn't really contribute anything.
No. It's not different or like impressive or like not like that, but like I mean like nothing that we haven't heard from like a lot of other things before.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure this is the song they wanted to write, but it's
almost as far as it's like between that and like Daughtry. Have you ever heard like Daughtry music?
I think so.
Like, but like not quite like that. It's still more because of the sound. It sounds more of that like pop punky, but the same like upbeat, like but positive and where it's gonna be. Like yeah.
Well, I mean, that's what Revolt was on the last album. You can fight, you can revolt, but Revolt I still felt was more in the style. I mean, Revolt still fit in the style of Muse, even though it was the content was a lot cheesier. And again, I fucking love Revolt. I was one of the few who did. It's one of the least popular Muse songs, but I love Revolt. But yeah, this one is a bit too far removed from their style, and it does seem, I don't know, I guess I'm a bit confused by the song so far, because it's a minute and a half in, and it's just a very, 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 very simple song. And obviously, if they want to do simple songs, that's great, and we should support that. But at the same time,
it doesn't sound like most of the stuff they do.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like they're not really putting a lot into this one. They're not really like, maybe this song just kind of like let's just put it on the. Yeah, actually,
it like literally sounds like
someone lesser. It's just
like,
a brutal, honest opinion.
It doesn't, yeah, exactly, and it doesn't mean like no, they're amazing. But I was like, this just doesn't even sound like.
Okay, so this song on this says this song is Feet Tuvlo.
Just for the
she did.
I guess.
Like, what?
Why'd you get Tovlo for that? You could have had anybody.
Why didn't you have
could
Matt
have
do
literally
that?
Done that. Exactly.
All right, well, let's talk about what we do like, which is the chorus for me. So super pop punkish. Although I will say it has just enough grit to remind me mostly of My Chemical Romance. And they're like peak. Everyone agrees that My Chemical Romance wrote great music. And I like.
That's
yeah,
I
the
didn't
chorus
think of that, but that strikes it in the right spot.
But we did point out that this quiet section where it goes to the piano is like identical to the bridges of All American Rejects, where it's just the chorus but quieter and. That's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, yeah, this is obviously they're just trying to make
catchy songs.
a very, very straightforward pop punky song. Yeah, the chorus I'm sure will grow on me. I'm sure if they play it live, I'll be belting the fuck out of this song.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, get up and fly.
That's right.
All right, we're right up to the next chorus so far. Let's give our thoughts.
Wow.
Very quintessential Muse, I'd say. Definitely still moving forward. It's like, it's. I guess it's just Muse going deeper into themselves, is how I would describe it.
Yeah, but you can tell it is also building up to like a climax for the album. It's supposed to be a build up to like where I've coming to the close and the end of like my research and or whatever we've been fighting for this whole time. And it's pretty concise but very good. Like this is like pretty like quick song.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are less aware of Queen's space rock, because like I don't know if necessarily if Queen invented like space opera rock, but they definitely mastered it. And they had like a few albums that were just like this. Sounds like really bombastic, ridiculous, tons of harmonies, and it's all like arpeggioed synthesizers just like flying through the space. So yeah, this is very much so a Queen song, but one of in a way that most people I think who don't know Queen's deeper hits are not gonna recognize.
Yeah.
But still, it's there and it's very prominent. So yeah, I think it's cool. It's definitely,
I like it a lot.
It's one of the defining things of Muse is kind of the continuation of the melodrama of Queen.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
exactly
it's a huge
like we
part
said
of
at the
Muse's
beginning
identity.
of when we just started at the beginning of it.
Yeah. Well, let's do that chorus 2 more times. You know, this whole song, the whole atmosphere of it reminded me of Thor 3.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
If this song, you could make this song the trailer. I should just edit that. I should make this song the trailer for Thor 3 and see how it fits, because I feel like it'd be
if you pick the right
perfect level of melodrama. So, again, in addition to, I guess, like Dark Side and Pressure, this is, I have a better appreciation for this song in the context of the full album.
Mm-hmm.
And now, listening to it now as, like, yeah, it's second song from the end. It's a good placement for it, and leading up to it, I kind of thought it was going to end up kind of just being a kind of a boring,
like a filler
that kind of slows down the pace of the album. But I don't feel that way. I actually really,
at this point.
Yeah, and surprisingly, like now as I was listening to it this time, I was kind of like picturing in my own imagination what the three of them would have kind of been like in the studio while they were recording this. Obviously, this is the first single they released, so I assume probably the first song they wrote in the album. And it actually feels very inspired. You know, it's the whole song is like 3 or 4 chords, the same thing repeated, but it's everything like it's like so many Muse songs. Everything is in the texture, like those like during that. The guitar solo, which is super restrained, during that part, the drums are like doing the
oh, okay, yeah.
I fucking love that drum part, and the drum parts are kind of like it gets you amped up again. And I really, from the beginning, I've really loved just how the bass in this is so thick. And it really feels like a warmth. Like the bass is so heavy that it vibrates your body. And that provides a feeling of kind of like warmth and comfort for me, which is very interesting. And obviously super intentional. That was great.
Yeah.
Obviously they're kind of playing into the narrative and the theme of the whole album as opposed to just kind of trying to write one solitary song. Like if you just heard this by itself, someone would be like, okay, that's kind of a weird song, a weird amalgamation of different things, but because it's the last song on the album, it obviously means something. And I would say that it
sounds like they were defeated almost.
Yeah, I totally think that. And there's a theory, some like philosopher who I was reading about it on Reddit the other day, that they put societies and like human cultures into 4 eras. The first era is high, where like things are on the upspin, you're on the rise, things are improving. Then the second era is enlightenment, where things have reached their peak, society's really doing well, people are kind of functioning. But then the next inevitable step is unraveling, and then the final stage of each era the final era of a society is crisis, and then the cycle repeats. And that the theory is that every society in the world has followed this pattern, and eventually they either, maybe they have a very minor kind of follow through of these processes, or maybe it's an extremely major. Like, you could maybe compare like the American Revolution to this, and Britain's relationship, how Britain stopped being a superpower after the US fall. And people are theorizing that right now we are in the unraveling stage in the US.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And we are approaching crisis, and I think that is definitely what this song, that's definitely what this song reminded me of, which is very surprising because obviously the song before it is Dig Down.
Yeah.
Super positive.
So you're just like, we just gotta have faith and we're gonna do it, man, and it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, it made me feel bad.
Yeah.
And that means it's a very effective way to end the album.
It's like makes you feel bad when they're also, but they're trying to portray positive lyrics and saying that like they say these bad things, but they're wrong, but it still doesn't feel positive.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying.
I think, the kind of the part that conceptually is harder to digest is, yes, they are wrong, but you can still lose.
Yeah.
Muse were very open about the fact that, like when they wrote Dig Down was a direct response to what was happening in the world at the time with like Brexit and Trump. So it's interesting that they didn't end the album on that. They ended on a very cynical, really cold song. Yeah. It's like very really isolating.
It feels empty. Like you feel empty. Like this is all I have left is just knowing that they're wrong.
All right. Well, that concludes our first listen through officially of Simulation Theory. Yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Can never count Muse out for not being interesting. They're always going to keep it interesting. All right, guys. Have a wonderful night or day, whichever, and we will see you again very soon.
So long.